And the parents should not force their children to do medicine, engineering, what they perceive to be
law
or law. First of all, you, the parent, you are not the one going to do that. It is not just a career is glittering. It's also a question of passion. It's a question of can you even do it? It's not just a question of the grades. Because you have good grades, you must do medicine. Unaenda pale unaona damu unaanza kutetemeka. Parents they are very selfish. They want to be in a bar drink and in a club drink and say, my daughter is doing medicine. They should stop that. I still don't understand why in a country with graduates in their hundreds of thousands roaming the streets looking for employment, in a country like that, I cannot understand why we are recruiting a C- to go and teach. I have a problem understanding. I think we are just sick people. The paper, by way of approval you are given by Engineer Regulation Board, whatever they are called, does not make you a good engineer. It's the market that will see whether you are an engineer or not. We live in a country where we think papers are working. Papers don't work. So this regulation is irrelevant. It is useless.
I see.
The engineer will be out there, the market will assess him. If he's a lousy engineer, nobody will value him. If he's a good engineer, he'll do his work. You get it? A university degree should be enough unless there's a further training, not mere regulation.
I see.
Many of our university managers have no capacity for running universities, which is a Kenyan thing anyway. I don't blame them. It's strictly Kenyan. Because if I was the president of the Republic of Kenya, if I am the president today, I will ask you, Richard, if you want to be the vice chancellor of the University of Nairobi, show me how in 3 years you will not ask me for a shilling. After 3 years, don't come for 1 shilling from government. If you can't, just go home.
Pack and leave.
Just go away. Convince me. And all these vice chancellors will just go home because they can't.
There continues to be a mismatch between education and labor market requirements in Kenya. Now, going into the future, how do we address this in the most efficient way possible so that not many people will succumb into fatalities that come with you realizing that probably the course you undertook at your higher institution level is not accredited or doesn't even fit the market labor market bill? So that forms the basis of our conversation today on Herman Manyora channel. And as always, I'm yours truly, Richard Mwenja. Truly honored that you've joined us on this edition, and to dissect into this conversation, I'm joined by none other than public scholar Herman Manyora. Glad to have you on board today, sir.
Thank you, Richard.
You're looking good in a red tie.
Thank you.
I see.
Yes.
Prof, you've seen over 200, slightly about 200 Egerton University engineering students being told to go back to class and partake some of their coursework so that they can be accredited by the Engineering Board of Kenya. It's a situation that has cut across many institutions of higher learning. In the long term, what would such occurrences portend for the Kenyan labor market? Is there so much harm in it, or it's something that you can always turn around easily?
I'm not a fan of excessive regulation. No. Or legal counsel for legal education, looking for lawyers, they must do what, engineering board, dentists what, all what. Except for life-related professions like medicine, dentistry, the rest of these things, I don't think they're necessary. The war between universities and the engineering board, I have found it revealing the fact that this board is just made of busybodies.
I see.
Yeah, because there are people who can't sit in our university classes and even pass an exam there. And they're trying to be clever than the professors who teach at the university. I don't support it so much.
I see.
Yeah.
When such graduates go into the labor market just after their graduation, and then they are not accredited by such professional bodies, in the eye of many parents, it's a return, an investment which has no returns. For you as a lecturer, how much of a harm do you think it is in the eye of these very same students?
It's very bad because there have been cases where students have finished their degree program, they are told, no, you have to go back and either start afresh or do some part of it. I think as a student and a parent, you wouldn't like it, certainly. You see, what I'm saying is this. The paper, by way of approval you are given by Engineer Regulation Board, whatever they are called, does not make you a good engineer. It's the market that will see whether you are an engineer or not. We live in a country where we think papers are working. Papers don't work. So this regulation is irrelevant. It is useless.
I see.
The engineer will be out there, the market will assess him. If he's a lousy engineer, nobody will value him. If he's a good engineer, he'll do his work. You get it? A university degree should be enough unless there's a further training, not mere regulation.
I see. To make the very same graduates competitive, have a competitive edge over the rest in probably other foreign countries, would you say it's high time that duplicated courses are done with, so we scrap some of the courses offered at institutions of higher learning, and those that complement each other and have a close interrelation, they are merged into one?
You know, relevance is important. Duplication is not a good thing. But people give these things superficial attention and superficial understanding. I know the situation was compounded when we increased universities. When we also moved into money-making, income-generating activities that mainly revolved around teaching, what you call Module 2 or parallel classes or self-sponsored programs. Now, what we have done at university over the years has been to more or less copy what another university is doing and try to tweak it here and there only. But basically it remains the same thing. Even within universities, you find some courses being split into 2 or 3. That need to be looked into.
I see.
Because relevance is important. Duplication is not good. We have to look into those that are duplicated, those that are the same but you're only changing the title and tweaking 1 or 2 things here. It's like you want to deceive yourself or your customer, your client. So we just need to relook at the whole thing. But so that we don't mix these things. I am not one of those people who believe that a university graduate ought to move from classroom and get in the industry and he is relevant. What people are calling industry-related relevance, labor compliant. Because a university is not a technical training institute. No.
I see.
University deals with knowledge. The application of that knowledge is another matter.
All right.
Yeah.
A number of institutions of higher learning have undertaken some structural adjustments, some of them being the merging of departments, so that departments that are close related complement each other. Would you say that this is a step towards the right direction that many universities should undertake, just so to bring out graduates who are so much efficient and fit the bill when it comes to labor market?
See, changes are always good, sometimes even necessary. Evaluating how you are working, looking at the structures you have, looking at relevance, making adjustments, it's something that's normal.
I see.
So if universities, I've seen my university doing the same. If universities do this kind of monitoring and reorganization and restructuring, to me, I don't find anything wrong with that.
I see.
Yeah.
Now
that it's well-intentioned, well-meaning, well-done. They talk about involving stakeholders, and I have no problem with that.
I see. Yeah. The Auditor General has signaled that it's perhaps high time that many high institutions of higher learning, especially public ones, go much on self-reliance and reduce their over-dependence on exchequer transfers. Probably this is the reason why many universities are coming up with extra courses, duplicating courses, just so to fund their internal activities. Could that be the reason?
You know, the universities went into we are really going through hard times towards the end of the 1990s. Around 1998, it was really bad. So we began looking for ways of making money. Unfortunately, the only one we found was teaching. Then, to sustain ourselves as a university. But when the money came in beyond what these people had ever imagined, one vice-chancellor was hard bragging that he was making over 2 billion per year. And the exchequer got excited and interested. And that was the beginning of cutting down on capitation, the kind of money they give to universities. So some universities like University of Nairobi barely have 50% of their expenditure provided for by the government, because they went bragging that they had lots of money. And now the fortunes are dwindling, the monies are no longer coming, the programs are become weaker and poorer and less students. Then Matiang'i came in with that C+ thing, you know, and there are no students, at least not as many. So it is a big challenge, but there's need to relook the whole idea of financing of university education, because you cannot rely on such a temporal fortunes like Module 2 or self-sponsored. That's temporal.
I see.
But if you ask me, and I've said this and I'm on record, many of our university managers have no capacity for running universities, which is a Kenyan thing anyway. I don't blame them. It's strictly Kenyan. Because if I was the president of the Republic of Kenya, if I am the president today, I will ask you, Richard, if you want to be the vice chancellor of the University of Nairobi, show me how in 3 years you will not ask me for a shilling. After 3 years, don't come for 1 shilling from government. If you can't, just go home.
Pack and leave.
Just go away. Convince me. And all these vice chancellors will just go home because they can't.
I see.
Even schools. Look at a school like Lenana, sitting on about 240 acres.
Prime plot.
And there are students being chased from school. They go home and their careers are finished. I'm not saying I've had 2 children there, so I know there are challenges with fees. Serious challenges. And whenever a child has challenges with fees, they are chased home, even if they eventually finish there. Maybe if they would have gotten an A, they may get a C. You have ruined them. So the question I'm asking, you mean a school, such a big schools, with big land, with big facilities, can't get sufficient money to bail out needy children? This over the land on cheap direct money from government and from fees is what will finish this country.
All right.
People should be able to help government. But, colonial schools, they had their own vegetable gardens, They grew their own food. They had their own milk.
Carpentry workshops.
They had carpentry workshops. They made things for teachers who in turn paid a little money, and neighbors. They did all manner of... I saw a school, Chabakali. They generated their power. What happened to the river? And the river is still there. I mean, when we got independence, we got into a stupid mode. That government is so rich, it's so big. You had Mali Yauma.
Yeah.
We have not gotten out that mentality that government has inexhaustible funds, which is wrong. If you gave a white boy, and I hate to say it, if you went to recruit a vice chancellor from Europe, from America, a young boy with little education, maybe running a small polytechnic, that's the only experience, and then you made him vice chancellor of a university here. Then you come back after 10 years. You would not believe it. The university will be self-reliant, everything will be working.
All right.
So I don't... What's wrong with Africans?
All right, sir. To address the issue of content gaps and probably this skills mismatch, would you say the competence-based curriculum, CBC, is the way to go that will address in the near future, probably in the long run, the issue of now feeding the market with people who are competent and have the skills at hand?
There's nothing more useless than CBC. I have tried to understand. I have tried so hard. Maybe I'm not intelligent. I have tried to see what this CBC is. I have talked to people. I've read around. I've seen where it has been tried with miserable
outcomes.
failure.
Spectacular failure.
I have a problem understanding.
Do you mean in the long run?
The few places where it has succeeded. Those are places, countries with 2-3 million population of 2-3 million people. Countries where schools, a class has 7 children, 12 at most. 15 is too bad. And in those countries, you can't teach unless you have a master's degree, even a kindergarten. Those are the few places it has. Elsewhere it has not. It can't work, whatever it means. So I think I can't understand what CBC is.
I see.
I've tried so hard. I've even went I've gone out of my way to read about it.
So you have a problem with our current system of education and curriculum, and also CBC won't really address it.
I'm not saying I have a problem with the current system of education. I have a problem with the way we view education. We have reduced education to exams. Exams is equals to education. education is equals to exams.
Term papers, excellent term papers.
And then we are a country of papers. First degree, I have a master's, PhD.
CPA.
We are a country of papers, not substance. So this CBC, 844, was conceived well. It was implemented wrongly.
All right.
And one of the reasons is, even the implementer himself must have a certain capacity. I still don't understand why, in a country with graduates in their hundreds of thousands roaming the streets looking for employment, in a country like that, I cannot understand why we are recruiting a seaman as to go and teach. I actually have a problem understanding. You know, I think we are just sick people.
All right.
And we need to find a hospital to go to, because we are a sick people. Even if CBC was good, it should be implemented by people of a certain capacity. 844 was good, but the implementation bit. When teachers were told, let our student be all round. Just know how you can mend your clothes or do some little painting at home. You know, we were taught by American Peace Corps teachers and volunteers from the UK. You could see them painting school buildings, the houses. That's what our 844s meant to. The teachers turned that into an examination business. So a child class 3 came home, the question they asked you about mixing colors, you say, God. So you wonder, they are now trying to teach even designers.
All right.
And I think, therefore, 844 is a good system. But we need to have the proper understanding of what education is. Education is not equal to exams, and exams are not equal to education. Once we sort out the issue of exams in this country, everything else will fall in place. Right. Then we recruit the right teachers. When I say these people sometimes make a lot of noise, but let them make noise. I'm just saying the truth.
All right.
So this is my country and I love it.
I see.
Yeah.
Now that we are trying to understand the origin of the issue of skills gap in the Kenyan labor market, who do you say the issue of us having patronage-based appointments and the issue of who do you know in this office or that one is perhaps what has led to many people get into higher education, not just because they want to really protect that, but because they've been told just come out with the paper for formality purposes and we'll give you this job whether you are competent or not. Yeah. Is it that has brought us this far? It
began. This issue I've raised in a book I wrote called Why Things Won't Work in Kenya. I have an essay in that, it's a collection of essays, in which I say the genesis must be seen when people went to India with the lowest possible qualification. But for you to take somebody to India, it meant you are somebody in society. Most likely you are a senior public servant. So you took your child to India, and because of your position in society and in government, you now employed them. After some time, these are the people now who are running the civil service. You understand it?
I see.
So the trend has continued, not now in India, but we are training people. So because you want to give your daughter a job, because you know somebody, you quickly take her through up to master's level. So that in the process of using nepotism to employ her, at least you cover yourself with the qualifications she has. So I agree with you. We must therefore move into capacity. Does somebody have capacity?
Merit-based.
Merit-based. Now, in order to do that, we need to have a structured approach to employment in this country. We must design labor affairs in such a way you don't need to know anybody to be employed. There is a database in which you enter whatever entry, whatever qualification you have. There's a national labor database, employment bureau, whatever you call it. And there's a way in which it is flagging people. When you apply for a job, it assesses you. The system assesses you and shortlists you. So you don't need to know anybody.
I see.
It can be done.
All right.
Especially in a country where there's tribalism and nepotism and corruption.
The very last, sir. Over 500,000 young Kenyans are sitting for the Kenya's secondary certificate education, KCSE, I will say that.
Over 800, I think.
Yeah, over 800,000.
Yeah.
These are people who are looking forward to join the Kenyan labor market probably in the next 4 or 5 years to come. For them not to succumb into fatalities orchestrated by issues of mismatch of skills in the labor market, what will be your word of probably advice to them so that they can have a competitive edge over the many of us who are out here and probably still grappling with finding our footing in the Kenyan labor industry?
2 things. Number one, college education, as Americans call it, which is university education, does not train a specialist. It trains a person of a certain capacity. Now, with that capacity, you can easily adapt to any job. You are trainable. So don't take your first degree as the last thing you are doing. It gives you a capacity to train for a job or to learn on the job, adaptability. But also to address your question, I conducted a research on behalf of a consultants firm called CPS. And what I was finding had been found, the same conclusion had been, the same whatever research had found, similar research had been done in the EU. And it showed a huge percentage of people in Europe, and now was confirming here in Kenya, really do not do the jobs for which they are trained. So that should not be the problem with you. If you are trained as an economist, you will find yourself doing a job that has nothing to do with economics.
It's happening.
So the idea is, that's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. The idea is, the training should make you have, first of all, entrepreneurial skills, or at least orientation, so that you know with your level of education, you can create a job for others, not for you to be employed. Secondly, that if you go to a job that has nothing to do with your training at university, you have the capacity to learn that job quickly. And when that job is finished and you go to another one that is not in your line of training, not even where you are, not related to what you are doing, you can also quickly adapt.
All right.
That is the force that is driving the labor market in Europe and America today.
Allow me, Adaraida, to your sentiments that even while they are transiting into higher education line, they should undertake background research in ensuring that the courses they'll take, they are accredited with the relevant bodies.
That's also good. And the parents should not force their children to do medicine, engineering, what they perceive to be
law.
Or law. First of all, you, the parent, you are not the one going to do that. It is not just a career is glittering. It's also a question of passion. It's a question of, can you even do it? It's not just a question of the grades. Because you have good grades, you must do medicine. Unaenda pale unaona damu unaanza kutetemeka. Parents they are very selfish. They want to be in a bar drink and in a club drink and say, my daughter is doing medicine. They should stop that. Secondly, the world is changing. The careers that were glittering 10 years ago are no longer glittering. In some countries like India, lawyers even work for a bottle of whiskey. They just hang around courts. There are too many of them and too useless.
In plastic suits.
Yeah, plastic suits.
And bad English.
If you give him some 2 rupees or a bottle of bad wine, they take up your case for you. No, and Kenya still think law is such a wonderful degree, forcing their children to do it, when they could have done better in Swahili, and they become stars. They become Wamitilas, they become Habwes, shining stars, Wala bin Wala. And they, how much money does Wala bin Wala make from Swahili? And you are forcing your daughter to do law so that you can brag, not even for the daughter. This is what parents must and students must know. The world today, Richard, is moving towards soft skills. The hard careers. How many doctors today, how many engineers are doing MBA to change into the soft skills?
Many of them.
Yeah, and it's a question of what orientation. You can observe your daughter and your son as they grow. You can have a rough idea of where they can shine. Don't force them into medicine because you want to be proud that your daughter is doing medicine.
All right.
Yeah.
It never gets boring with Herman Manyora here on Business Glide. Perhaps why we always have him every time that we want to look at economic concerns here in Kenya. Our fan of the week is none other than Daniel Okwaro. Actually, this gentleman bumped into me today in the morning and he said he's a security officer at Yaya Center and that Professor Herman Manyora, should he visit Yaya Center, he'll buy you a drink for free.
Thank you, Okwaro. I'll look out for Yaya Center.
Yeah, Daniel Okwaro.
Daniel Okwaro, tazama utaona Manyora hapa Yaya Center. Na hiyo soda, you make sure you buy it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate your company here on Business Glide. Make sure you get posted on our subsequent editions that come to you every Tuesday and Thursday here on Herman Manyora channel. And also keep this conversation going beyond here. I'm at Mwenja Richard on Twitter, at Manyora on Twitter as well. And give us some ideas or thoughts that on areas you want us to cover in the near future. Until next time, God bless you. Up next is the Business Glide African Proverb of the Day.